National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Good evening and welcome to the National News Broadcast, bringing to you live from the National News Studios here at the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation. We are ready to bring you the top stories here at home and around the world. I am Charita Minupurarachi, together with Kasuni Balachandra. The Speaker officially informs that the President has resigned. Parliament resumes sittings tomorrow. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe sworn in as acting President. Vote on the election of a new president is to take place on the 20th. Ranil, Sajid and Dulles contest for the post. The IMF anticipates to recommence the process of extending financial relief to Sri Lanka. 8 shiploads of fuel are scheduled in the coming week. A ban on Mahinda and Basil to leave the country. The Italian Prime Minister resigns.
And we move on to those and other stories in detail. And your top local story tonight, Speaker of the Parliament Mahinda Abeyewardene announced today morning that President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has officially resigned from his post.
Addressing the media, the Speaker said that he has received the President's official resignation letter dated 14th of July 2022. The Speaker further said that as per the Constitution, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe will function as the acting President of the new acting President.
Top story.
I have received the letter of resignation sent by His Excellency the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa in terms of Article 38(1)(b) of the Constitution of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. Accordingly, the President has officially resigned from his position on July 14, 2022. Accordingly, the constitutional process of electing a new President will be executed henceforth. The Prime Minister will act in accordance with the Constitution to exercise and perform the powers, functions and duties of the President until the completion of the said process. The election of the new President will be carried out in accordance with the Presidential Election Special Provisions Act No. 2 of 1981 in accordance with the Article 40 of the Constitution, as I have informed all the party leaders as a party leaders meeting. It is my intention to successfully complete the process as soon as possible. As our nation is known its pride of being the oldest democratic country in South Asia, the execution of this process within a maximum democratic framework and transparency will be an important historical event, not only in our country but also in the political history of the world. I therefore request all party leaders, government officials and security personnel to extend their maximum support towards the process of democratic action. In particular, we request the respected and beloved public of our country to create a suitable and peaceful atmosphere for all the members representing the Parliament to freely act according to the concerns and participate in the meetings in order to implement the proper democratic parliamentary system. I hope to complete this process within a short period of 7 days with the cooperation of all the responsible parties in a peaceful atmosphere. Therefore, I am hereby informing that the Parliament will convene on the 16th Saturday of this month, requesting the attendance of all members. I extend my sincere gratitude for all your support.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna has decided to extend support to acting President Ranil Wickremesinghe in the vote to elect a president in Parliament. A communique issued under the signature of the Secretary of the SLPP, Parliamentarian Sagara Karyavasam, has substantiated the decision in this regard. The SLPP, which has the majority in the present Parliament, has earlier decided not to field a candidate in the vote to elect the new president. However, an MP who has been elected to Parliament under the SLPP has officially informed of his candidature in the election. The communique added that by taking into consideration of the impact caused on the basic policy of the party through this declaration, it has decided to extend fuller support to Ranil Wickremesinghe at the vote.
And now we'll be moving to the next President segment. MP Partili Champicoronavaka said that it is important to ensure that any person wishing to become the next president should be of character capable of remaining in the office for more than 2.5 years. Only a person with political stability could pave the way for the political stability of a country as well. The next president should be a genuine caretaker president. He or she should not engage in any political activity after retirement. The elected president will have to function as a non-party president.
මේ ජනාධිපති තරංගයේ සඳහා පාර්ලිමේන්තු ඉදිරිපත් වෙනවා නම් මේ ජනතා අපේක්ෂාවන් ඒකෙන් ඉෂ්ට ප්‍රාප්ත වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ නිසා අපි බොහොම පැහැදිලිව කියනවා මේ ඊළඟ ජනාධිපතිවරයා බොහොම පැහැදිලිව සැබෑ භාරකාර ජනාධිපතිවරයෙක් විය යුතුයි. ඔහු ඊළඟ ඔහුගේ මේ දූර කාලය අවසන් වීමෙන් පස්සේ ඔහු කිසිම ආකාරයක මේ රටේ දේශපාලනයට මැදිහත් නොවි විශ්‍රාම ගත යුතුයි. ඒ වගේම ඔහුට පුළුවන්කම ලැබිය යුතු ඔහුගේ දූර කාලයේ දරණ කාලය තුල කිසිම දේශපාලන පක්ෂයක් ප්‍රවර්ධනය නොකොට මේ තිබෙන අතිමහත් බරපතල ආර්ථික සමාජීය ගැටලු වලින් රට මුදා ගැනීම සඳහා නිර්පාක්ෂික එහෙම නැත්නම් සර්වපාක්ෂික ජනාධිපතිවරයෙක් හැටියට කටයුතු කරන්න. එහෙම නැතුව මේ බලය ලබා ගැනීමේ කෙටි මගක් හැටියට මේ පාවිච්චි කිරීමට කිසිවෙකුට අයිතියක් නැහැ.
MP Rajitha Senaratne said that an agreement has been reached with Dala Salaha Peruma for the post of Prime Minister. If any agreement in this regard is unable to be carried forward, then Sachit Premadasa will contest for the post of President.
Dallas මංගිතන්නේ එන්නේ ජනාධිපති ධූරයට. සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස ඊයේ කිව්වා එයා බොහොම නම්‍යශීලී ඒ නිසා එයා ලෑස්ති ඔය පදවි දෙකෙන් ඕන එකට එන්න කියලා. ඒ අනුව අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය ධූරයට එකඟ වුණා.
MP Lakshman Kiriyala said that several political MP Lakshman Kiriyala said that several political meetings have been conducted yesterday and today with political parties in the opposition. He added that the agreements reached yesterday were not adhered in today's meeting. One of the agreements reached was that the two main positions of the government should be shared by the government and the opposition. The MPs of the Samagi Janabalawege have expressed their willingness over the decision yesterday. Lakshman Kiriyala further said that they have attempted today to reconvene the opposition members today to confirm the positions taken yesterday. The parliamentarian said, however, some of the participants were not in a favourable position over yesterday's decision. As a result of the opposition has failed to arrive at a consensus, there are 62 SJB members. Kiriyala further said that they do not have funds to buy MPs. However, he has expressed their commitment to take the country out of the present pathetic situation and to form a government.
සම්මුතිය අදූදේ ගන්න බැරි වුන නිසා අපි ඒ අදහස අත්හැරියා. අපි තාම ඉන්නේ ඒ මතේ. මන්ත්‍රීවරු 62යි ඉන්නේ. අපිට මන්ත්‍රීවරු මිලදී ගන්න අපිට අවශ්‍ය මුදල් නැහැ. නමුත් ඒ 62 උනත් අර්වපාක්ෂික ආණ්ඩුවට ලබා දීලා මේ රට වැටලා තියෙන අගාධයෙන් ගොඩ ගන්න අපි සූදානම්. විවිධ පක්ෂ වලින් මන්ත්‍රීවරු මිලදී අරගෙන ඒ විදියට ආණ්ඩුවක් හදන්න තමයි රජය උත්සාහ කරන්නේ. අවතර බලයට වඩා අපි විපක්ෂයක් හැටියට එකට ඉන්න බෑ. දැන් කණ්ඩායමක් ගැලවි විපක්ෂේ වාඩි වුණා. ඊයේ තීරණය කෙරුවා එක පුද්ගලයෙක් නම් කරන්න. නමුත් අද අපිට සුනාම ඒ අදාතට සජබ නෙවෙයි අනිකුත් පක්ෂලාය හැම එක්කිනාම නෙවෙයි සමහරු ඒ අදාතට එකග උන්නේ. ඔය වෙන විවිධ කණ්ඩායම් ඉන්නවනේ මම නම් වශයෙන් කියන්නේ කැමති නෑ. ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් තිබෙන්නේ නැත්නම් වශයෙන් මම කියන්න ඕනේ.
Parliamentarian Dala Salaha Peruma says that he is ready to contest for the post of executive president with the honest intention of establishing a civilized political culture for the greater well-being of the general public without looking through political color glasses. MP Dala Salaha Peruma issuing a communique says that he is expecting the wholehearted cooperation of patriotic parliamentarians triggered by the honest objective of building a peaceful and developed Sri Lanka devoid of traditional divisions. The people of Sri Lanka are going through a migratory period confronted by numerous political, economic and social activities as never before experienced in history. The public protest that has arisen due to the economic crisis has been strong enough to break the political authority. Parliamentarian Dala Salaha Peruma further points out in the communique that the direction of the people's aspirations has now changed. He adds that the people should not be subjected to further difficulties. All in society, from to small school-going child to the retired adultery, and eagerly waiting to have a permanent solution to the existing problems. The MP reiterated that solutions to all crises could be sought within a democratic and constitutional political framework. With the support of groups with the outside of the parliament, Dala Salaha Peruma further says that he is seeking the support of the relevant groups as a friendly and trustworthy politician who is dedicated to carry the entire countrymen towards economic prosperity and supremacy of law through the agreement of all ethnic groups. The MP has further reiterated his firm commitment to fulfill his duties and obligations.
The Bar Association of Sri Lanka reiterates that the parliamentarians should discharge their onerous duties, respecting the people's supremacy and people's aspirations and safeguarding the democratic values in the election of a president in future. A BASL communique points out the need to take a decision in this regard based on timely and political needs and not on the personal requirements of an individual or a political party. The parliamentarians should act in every manner to prevent further disintegration of the status of the country. The association also requests the cooperation of all parties concerned to immediately finalize the draft of the constitution. It also calls upon the people to refrain from engaging in any activity that would obstruct the process of transfer of power to be taken place for the first time in Sri Lanka. The BASL also stresses the need to conclude the process of electing a president by the parliament without further delays. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as the acting president of Sri Lanka before Chief Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya. The Prime Minister's media division said Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as the acting president before Chief Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya. Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed as the acting president by former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa on Wednesday. Gotabaya Rajapaksa tendered his resignation yesterday after arriving in Singapore, officially vacating the post of president, following which Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe takes over as acting president temporarily as per the constitution. Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe says he will function as the acting president of Sri Lanka until a new president is elected in parliament by making a special statement today. Acting President Ranil Wickremesinghe further announced that two key decisions have been taken by him after being appointed. He said that the first is that the reference term used for the President, His Excellency, will not be used anymore. The second is that the official flag of the President will be abolished since the country needs only one national flag. Acting President Ranil Wickremesinghe also highlighted the following key measures that are to be taken during his temporary stint as acting president of Sri Lanka. Steps are underway to present the necessary bills to reinstate the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. Measures are being taken for the new president, who will be elected next week, to present the 19th Amendment to Parliament. steps have been taken to ensure law and order are maintained in the country. Security is also increased for members of parliament as there are attempts being made to mount pressure on them on electing a new president. A committee comprising tri-forces and police has been appointed to ensure law and order in the country. All parties have been urged to come to a common consensus on the establishment of an all-party interim government. The acting president concluded that he will safeguard the constitution, will not permit any action that violates the constitution, will unite all parties and work together for the betterment of the country. The Constitution stipulates the procedure pertaining to the appointment of a new president in place of the resignation of the incumbent president.
A political crisis of the nature has arisen in the history of Sri Lanka for the first occasion. Therefore, the general public has a minimum understanding on the situation. This is not related to the appointment of a new president due to the resignation of Gotabaya Rajapaksa from the post of presidency. According to the first sub-constitution in the 38th clause of the Constitution, as recorded in the 40th clause of the Constitution, a member among the parliamentarians is being elected as president in order to function in the remaining term of office of the president fell vacant due to the exit of the current president. The procedure will be carried out according to the Special Regulation Act No. 2 of 1981 for the election of the president. The entire process is being carried out under the monitoring of the Secretary General of Parliament. Even the Speaker is accorded the opportunity to cast a vote. According to the law, the Parliament should convene within 3 days after the vacancy in the post of presidency. The election of a new president should not exceed 1 month after the vacancy. The Secretary General of Parliament should inform the members of Parliament on the date and the time of the parliamentary meeting to elect a new president. The Parliament session should be conducted on the date reserved for the convening of nominations. The returning officer of the process is Secretary General of Parliament. Accordingly, any member who is hoping to promise the name of a member of the post of presidency should agree to serve under the president to be elected by such member. Similarly, it is compulsory for the member being proposed to remain in the parliamentary chamber at the time of the meeting. If only the name of one member is proposed and seconded, the Secretary General of Parliament should make a declaration to the effect that he has been elected unanimously. If there are more than one proposals, a vote has to be conducted. The time and the date of the vote should be determined by Parliament. This date should not exceed 48 hours upon acceptance of nominations. Prior to the commencement of the vote, the Secretary General should display the empty ballot boxes to the MPs and to place seals on them. The General Secretary, as the returning officer, should declare the names of the respective MPs, including the Speaker, in conducting the vote. If a vote of a member becomes spoiled, the returning officer has the authority to hand over another ballot if he is satisfied over the facts leading to the spoiling of the vote. The returning officer should immediately cancel off any spoiled vote. Furthermore, if a certain MP failed to cast vote after the second calling of the name, that vote is considered a rejected vote. Each member is entitled to one vote. Voting in favour of a candidate could be performed by making the number 1 in front of the cage in respective candidate. The MPs are also accorded the opportunity to engage in preferential voting when the names of more than one candidate are proposed. In such instances, the preferences could be marked by placing the figures 2 or 3 in the respective cages in front of the names of the candidates. Thereafter, the Secretary General will commence the counting of the votes. It is the responsibility of the returning officer to grant the opportunity for any candidate to be present and the counting of the vote. If the candidate is not available, he could propose the name of the proxy to be present at the time of counting of votes. If any candidate secures more than half of the valid votes, the returning officer should inform Parliament that this candidate has been elected as president. If none of the candidates fail to receive more than half of the votes, then the counting of the second and third preferential votes will take place. The counting of second preferential will be carried out, eliminating candidates who have polled the least number of preferential votes. The returning officer should also declare the number of the received the majority of votes when none of the candidates fail to receive more than half of the votes. When 2 or several candidates poll equal number of votes, the president-elect will be determined through the drawing of a lottery.
Speaker Mahinda Yapa has informed at a party leaders meeting today that appointment of a new president will take place on the 20th of this month. As decided upon earlier, calling of nominations is scheduled to be conducted on the 19th. The Speaker has presided over a special meeting of party leaders to discuss on the current situation in the country, which has arisen as a result of the President resigning from his post. The meeting has commenced at the Parliament complex at 10 a.m. today. Speaker has also informed on the occasion that the Parliament will be convened tomorrow in order to announce of the vacancy in the post of President. According to Clause 4 of the Special Regulation Act No. 2 of 1981, on the appointment of President, Parliament should be convened within 3 days upon the arisen of vacancy in the post of Presidency. According to the 5th clause of the Act, Secretary-General of Parliament should declare on the vacancy in the post of President. The Speaker has further informed that upon convening of nominations on Tuesday the 19th, a Member of Parliament will have to be elected for the post of Presidency at the conducting of a parliamentary vote on Wednesday the 20th of this month. Speaker Mahinda Yanathapabewardena also stated at the party leaders' meeting that he is expecting the cooperation of all parties concerned to speedily accomplish the procedure within a democratic framework and without any obstruction.
And meanwhile, the security divisions have inspected the situation at the President's house after leaving of the protesters from the location. The media has also been granted the opportunity to report the event. And meanwhile, celebrations were seen at the base camp of protesters Gotago village premises following the confirmation of the resignation of the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa yesterday night and this morning. Protesters who maintained their base camp at capital Colombo's lavishly front area of gold-faced green were seen jubilant following the announcement made by the parliamentary speaker Mahinda Yanathapabewardena. Camp was in a celebratory mood and camp residents cooked milk rice, a traditional Sri Lankan delicacy specially prepared for species and celebratory occasions in the island nation to celebrate the victory of their cause. A protest leader, Reverend Father Jivanta, told SLRC that they will continue their struggle until the ill effects of the current crisis are over. Protesters celebrated last night too when President Gotabaya Rajapaksa landed in Singapore, confirming his exile.
am Father Jivanta Piris, speaking behalf of the protesters of Sri Lanka. Today we see the 98th day of the struggle of citizens of Sri Lanka. This non-violent struggle of Sri Lankans have come to a fruitful result. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has confirmed of his resignation. For nearly 3.5 months, people of Sri Lanka, as the civilians, have been protesting throughout consistently, committedly, why all the Sri Lankans wanted a change in Sri Lanka. They wanted a change in Sri Lanka because the political crisis, which was caused by economical crisis, day by day was unbearable for normal people. People started dying in the queues. So this non-violent peaceful protest was started April 9th, and people going beyond their differences, religion, race, caste, political ideologies, people came together in solidarity to oust the president and the prime minister, and wanting a constitutional change, a change in the structure of the country. And people have realized people's power has affirmed the supreme power of legislation is the people's power. And this tyranny of Rajapaksa, with this bloodthirsty political agenda of Rajapaksas, already is defeated by the non-violent, peaceful citizens' power. So we are happy as Sri Lankans that there's a way forward, and people are demanding that Ranil Wickremesinghe too must resign, because the democratic system must take in charge and go forward.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna says it salutes the services rendered by Gotabaya Rajapaksa over the difficult decision taken to relinquish power and leave the post of executive president.
An SLPP communique also recalls the services rendered by him, a gallant soldier and defense secretary as well. This was the first instance in the history of the country of an executive president leaving office prior to the expiry of tenure. The SLPP statement further points out that Gotabaya Rajapaksa has also successfully confronted the complex challenge of protecting the citizens from the COVID pandemic within 3 months upon assuming presidency, receiving a historic mandate of the people. Even the international community has acknowledged the fact that the president had effectively controlled the spread of the pandemic. A long-standing foreign exchange dispute has been triggered due to the facts related to the COVID pandemic. The SLPP communique further points out that the dialogue through the conscience of the future generations will be arisen on Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who left the office even before fulfilling half of the period in office.
United States Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, urged all parties in Sri Lanka to work together, ensure the rule of law is upheld and find solutions to the economic crisis that have severely impacted the nation. The United States continued to urge all parties to work together to ensure the rule of law upheld and find solutions to the economic crisis. United Nations Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, further stated that the United States of America remains committed to the democratic aspirations of the Sri Lankan people.
The International Monetary Fund says the ongoing crisis situation in Sri Lanka is of grave concern and hopes for a resolution of the current situation to resume the dialogue on an IMF-supported program as soon as possible. IMF Director of Communications Gary Ryan at an online media briefing held yesterday said the situation in Sri Lanka is of deep concern and the IMF is closely monitoring the political and social developments in the country.
The couple of questions we have from Heather and from Matthew. So, like everyone else, we are, of course, deeply concerned about the ongoing crisis, its impact on the Sri Lankan people, and particularly the poor and the vulnerable groups in Sri Lanka. Again, like everyone else, we're closely monitoring the political and the social developments there. We hope for a resolution of the current situation that would allow for our resumption of a dialogue on an IMF-supported program. You may recall that in June, less than a month ago, things are moving so fast, but less than a month ago there was an IMF staff team in Colombo, and we did have discussions actually constructive discussions with the authorities on a set of economic policies and reforms that could be supported by potentially by an IMF program. We don't have a program with Sri Lanka right now, but we were discussing what could be a program. Clearly, the political and the social emergency situation, I guess we could characterize it. We all see what's happening. You described it, Matthew.
And meanwhile, Colombo is asking a loan from China, $1 billion United States dollars, to repay an equivalent amount of Chinese debt coming due this year. Dr. Palitha Kohana, Sri Lanka's ambassador to China, said in an interview to Bloomberg Television today. Dr. Palitha Kohana further said that Sri Lanka is also seeking a $1.5 billion US dollars of credit line to pay for the Chinese imports and activation of $1.5 billion US dollar swap.
Relationship right now, and how will it be affected by change of a government, in your view?
In my view, I don't think there will be a substantive change, because the relationship between the two countries is a very deep-seated relationship. It's not based on political parties which run the country. It's not based on convenience. I believe that the relationship will withstand whatever changes that take place in Colombo. In fact, no one has up to now indicated that there will be any change at the Colombo end. China is a close friend, and we will maintain that relationship as it has always been, a close and warm relationship.
Well, Ambassador, on the one side we've got Colombo negotiating with the IMF. On the other is, of course, debt restructuring talks taking place with Beijing as well. How are those restructuring talks faring right now?
There are two or three factors that you have to take into account here. Sri Lanka's biggest creditor is not Beijing. So only about 10% of our external debt is owed to China. The rest is owed to say countries like Japan, international institutions like the Asian Development Bank, the World Bank, and also commercial lenders. So the debt that we owe to China is only about 10%. $1 billion of that debt is falling due for repayment this year. And we've asked China to extend us a loan to meet those repayments. These discussions are continuing between the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and the authorities of China. We have also asked China to extend us a loan of 1.5 billion to pay for purchases from China. It will be a purchaser credit arrangement. In addition, there is also a swap arrangement already negotiated, which needs to be activated. So these are these three different avenues that we are looking at from a financial perspective.
Ambassador, a quick question here about how do you see the Sri Lanka-China relationship evolving since, of course, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa left the country? Will there be more of an interest and more of a perhaps a lean or pivot towards India in your opinion? What do you think is going to happen?
That's a very important question, because our relationship with India is not dependent on our relationship with China. India is a close neighbor and a very vital neighbor. It has been a friend for a long time, and even in recent months, India has come to our assistance very enthusiastically. India has extended credit to Sri Lanka and granted to Sri Lanka in total, which approximates almost $3 billion. This is in recent months. China also is a very close friend, and we've had very warm and proximate relations with China. I don't think one relationship depends on the other, or there is a need to shift from one relationship to the other. Both are important to Sri Lanka, and we will maintain those relationships in the current form.
The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation says 3 shiploads of between 30 30,000 to 40,000 metric tons of diesel is scheduled to arrive in the island between the period of 17th to the 23rd of this month. 2 more ships carrying petrol are also scheduled to arrive. Payments have been made for all of these orders. The Lanka IOC company also said that 3 ships carrying fuel will arrive during the week.
Both the Lanka IOC and the CPC says prevailing congestion at the fuel retailing centres will return to normalcy with the arrival of these supplies. 100 bouncers daily engage in distribution of fuel to the Lanka IOC company. The Ceylon Private Petroleum Tankers Association says they are hoping to engage in 24-hour fuel distribution with the CPC. The Supreme Court has ordered today the Attorney General to prepare a systematic program for the distribution of fuel for essential services. The order has been released at the examination of 2 fundamental right petitions filed by the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, requesting to order the government to implement short and long-term programs for the continuous supply of essential services, including provision of fuel, food, electricity and medicines. The case is being heard before a 3-member panel of Supreme Court judges consisted of Justices Vijit Malalgoda, Mahinda Samrawardana and Arjuna Besekura. The Attorney General has produced before the courts of an affidavit from the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Energy clarifying the process of purchasing and distributing of fuel. A detailed report on the amount of fuel to be purchased, the payments and distribution has been presented. However, the basis said that it is satisfied with the report. The judges have informed that it is appropriate to prepare a systematic program on fuel distribution after conducting talks between the Secretary of the Ministry of Power and Energy and representatives of the BASL in the next 2 weeks. The Litro Gas Company said distribution of domestic gas cylinders is being carried out island-wide. Gas were distributed in many parts of the country today as well. A stock of urea fertilizer imported from India was transported from Colombo harbour to the Lakpora fertilizer depot in Wattala. The stocks are being distributed in aggregated services centres island-wide from the location. The Ministry of Education has decided to further extend school vacation to the 20th from the 18th of this month.
The ministry in a communique informs that schools are scheduled to be reopened on Thursday, the 21st of this month. The Education Ministry media release adds that the decision to prolong the school holidays by a few more days has been taken after considering the ongoing transport difficulties due to fuel shortages. It has been agreed for a vacation extension for government schools and government-approved private schools upon discussions with the relevant education officials.
And meanwhile, the Supreme Court has issued an order today preventing former finance ministers Basil Rajapaksa and Mahinda Rajapaksa leaving the country without the permission of the judiciary. The order will remain valid till the 28th of this month. The court decision has been declared at the convening of a motion related to a petition regarding issuing an order to conduct an investigation on persons responsible for the present economic crisis. The verdict has been delivered by a 5-member panel of Supreme Court judges comprising of Chief Justice Jayanta Jayasuriya, Justices Bhuvanekalu Vihara, Priyantha Jayawardena, Vijit Malalgoda and L.T.B. Dehideniya. Stay tuned for international news after this break.
ඩෙන්ගු රෝගයේදී උණ හිස රදය ඇඟපත වේදනාව ඇති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. උණ අඩු කිරීම